Hi there, it's Beefy. I hope everything is great in your neck of the woods. Today I want to chat about using external compositing tags and the workflow between Cinema 4D and After Effects. External compositing tags are useful to assign to objects that you want to edit in post-production. So basically, information about the position, rotation, and even physical elements of the object can be exported to After Effects using the external compositing tag, as well as lights and camera information. I use this a lot in my workflow, and my common use of external compositing tags is using the information to apply callouts to an animation in After Effects, which is great for infographics. There are many uses where you can apply this tool, but today I'm going to concentrate on callouts. I'm going to run through some examples and point out some problems you may face, and I'll show you two methods you can use, the Cineware plugin and the C4DImporter Plugin. So without further ado, let's jump into the first example. Okay, before we get started, there's one thing that we need to do. I mentioned two plugins. The Cineware plugin is native to After Effects. The C4DImporter plugin is not. So what we need to do is install that. So that's fairly easy. There's nothing to download. So what we need to do is just come into our local disk and our program files, and you need to select the version of Cinema 4D that you're using. I'm using R24, so I'm just going to come into here and I'm going to come to Exchange Plugins. And then we've got a selection here of different applications. So we've got 3ds Max, After Effects, Maya and Photoshop. So what we need to do is come into After Effects, and I've only got one selection here, which is Importer. So I'm just going to open this up, and I've got Win and CSCC, and here is my plugin. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste this onto my desktop. I'm going to come back to my local disk again, and what we need to do now is come into our Adobe folder here and come to After Effects. So I'm going to choose the After Effects that I'm using, which is 2021, and I'm going to come to the support files and scroll down to plugins, and this is where we drop our plugins. So I'm going to just take this from the desktop and I'm going to drop this straight into here. Click continue, and Bob's your uncle. That's all there is to it. I'm using Windows, and I'm also using Cinema 4D R24. So your navigation to the plugin will be different on different operating systems and for different versions of Cinema 4D. So if you pop to the Maxon Support Center, there's loads of information there for you. I shall leave a link to a certain page about installing your plugin into After Effects, and any problems, if you contact the Maxon Support Center, they will help you with any problems that you have. Okay, so that's installed, so let's crack on. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this example now. I've jumped into Cinema 4D and I have a small scene set up here, and my project settings is 30 frames per second, and I have 180 frames on my timeline, and that's basically it. So I've got like 4 cubes here. I've got a red cube, blue, green and purple, and these are animated like so. The green has no animation whatsoever. The red has been animated along a spline using the Align to Spline tag. And the blue cube is animated along the X using keyframes, as well as the purple cube. But we're not going to be concerned with the purple cube at the moment. I'm just going to be concerned with the red, blue and green. So what I want to do is I want to render this out and bring it into After Effects and apply callouts to each of these cubes. And to do that, we use the External Compositing Tag. Now I want these callouts to be in a specific position. So I've made nulls which are children of the appropriate cube. So I have the red text null, a child of the red cube, and I'll position that at the top of the cube here. And I've done the same for the blue and the green. So when I bring this into After Effects, I want the information of the position and rotation of the nulls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the external compositing tag to each null. So I'm going to right click, come down to render tags and external compositing, and I'm going to do that for the blue and the green. I'm just going to leave the external compositing tag parameters here as default, and we should be good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back to 0, and I'm going to save my project, and I'm going to render this out, and we should jump into After Effects. Okay, so we jumped into After Effects here, and what I need to do is I need to import my PNG sequence. And I'm going to make sure my PNG sequence checkbox is checked here, and I'm going to import. And I also need to import my Cineware 4D project file. So I'm just going to come into here, and this is my project file, and I'm going to import. One thing you need to watch for is your PNG sequence is by default imported as a 30 frames per second sequence. And if your original project in Cineware 4D is 24 or 60 frames, etc., you need to interpret your PNG sequence to the right frame rate. So I'm just going to right click on here and come to interpret footage and go to main. My project is 30 frames per second in Cineware 4D, so I don't need to worry about this. So this is where you change your frame rate, and once you've done that, you're good to go. So I'm just going to drop my PNG sequence into a composition, and it's a wonderful looking scene, I know, but hopefully this will get the point across. And this is animating like so, which is looking good so far. So what I need to do is I need to bring my Cineware 4D project file, and I'm just going to drop this into the composition. Automatically the Cineware plugin is applied, and we're not going to be rendering the Cineware 4D project in After Effects. We just need it to extract information. And to do that, you come down to the bottom of your effects panel here in the effects controls, and you just click extract, and this extracts all the information that you need. So you have your lights, your camera, and you have your nulls that your external compositing tags was applied to. So this is all great. I'm not going to be, as I said, I'm not rendering through Cineware 4D because I've already rendered my scene. So I'm just going to get rid of these lights. We don't need to see them, but we need the camera, we need the nulls, and everything's good to go now. So as you can see, these nulls have been applied to our objects, and everything's looking great there. So I'm just going to come in here, and I've already prepared some text layers, so I'm just going to copy these and I'm just going to bring them into the comp here. So I'm just going to paste these into my composition here. And so I have my text, I have green, blue and red. So I'm going to apply these to my text nulls, and I'm going to do that by using the pick whip. So I'm going to hold the pick whip here, and I'm going to hold shift, and the green one here I'm going to take down to the green text null. I'm holding shift so that the text will adopt the position of the null, and that's disappeared. So I just need to make this a 3D layer. Actually, I need to switch it on first, and now I'll make this a 3D layer, and you can see this is applied to our object here. So I'm just going to do the same with the blue. Take the pick whip, and I'm going to hold down shift and drop it onto the blue, and I'm going to do the same with the red. I need to turn these on and make these 3D. So there we go. I'm just going to turn these callouts around so that we can see them properly. Okay, so just hold down shift for increments. So we're good to go now. So these callouts should animate along with our cubes. So I'm just going to press play. And immediately we have a problem here. So the blue's fine, the green's fine, but the red, the null isn't being animated along with the cube. And the reason for that is that this cube doesn't have any keyframes to it, except for the align to spline. The information of the position of the null isn't being passed over to After Effects via the External Compositing Tag through the Cineware plugin. The only thing that we can do is come back into Cinema 4D. We need to bake the position of the red cube into keyframes. So I'm going to come into Cinema 4D again. Okay, so I'm back in Cinema 4D and I'm going to play this game. So you can see that the null is following the position of the red cube, but the information of that position of the cube and the null isn't being passed over through Cineware. So what we need to do is we need to come into our dope sheet. So come to Windows, dope sheet, and I've already got my cube here. I'm just going to clear that. Okay, so when you open your dope sheet, you might not see your red cube here because that's not the thing that has keyframes, it's the align to spline that has keyframes. So we just need to take the red cube here and I need to drop it into the dope sheet. And with it selected, I need to come to functions and bake objects. And you're going to get this dialog come up. I'm going to leave everything as default. So I'm going to make sure that create copy is checked here because I like to keep the original object just in case I need to go back and change the animation, and then I can just use the create copy for my information in After Effects. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK, and there we have our new copy, and it's got all the keyframes that we need. So what I want you to do is so there's no confusion here, I'm just going to take the External Compositing Tag off my original red null, and I'm going to save, and we're going to come back into After Effects. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all the extracted layers that we extracted earlier. I'm just going to delete these. And I'm just going to come back into my project and I'm going to reload my footage, which is my Cinema 4D project file, and that should be updated to our recent save. And I'm going to come to back to the effects control and I'm going to extract. And again, I don't need my lights, so I'm just going to delete my lights here. Okay, so I have my red, blue and green null here, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to take the pick whip and hold down shift and assign these to the correct nulls. Okay, and I'm just going to adjust these again. Okay, and if I scrub down the timeline here, we can now see that our red cube callout is now attached to our box, which is exactly what we want. So this is using the Cineware plugin, and this is one of the occasions where it doesn't work, so you need to bake your object down into keyframes. But there's an easier way of doing this. So this is not using the Cineware plugin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into Cinema 4D. Okay, so we're back to our original scene before we bake down our red cube. So I have my red cube that's been animated with align to spline, and my blue and purple are keyframes using the position, and the green is stationary as it was before. So the difference here is instead of using the Cineware plugin, we're going to use the AEC Importer plugin, which is the C4DImporter.aex that we installed earlier. And to use this, all you have to do is come to your render settings. So here's your original render settings. If you come down to the bottom here, you have compositing project file. And what you need to do is just click save. And my target application is After Effects, but you can choose from Nuke, Motion or Fusion. I don't know these other compositing software. I only know After Effects, so I'm just going to be showing you After Effects. And I'm just going to leave these checked here. And when you originally render out, if this is checked, then this is automatically going to save your AEC file into your render folder. But I've already rendered my project out, so I just need to save this AEC file into my folder. So I'm just going to come here, save project file, and I'm going to come to my render folder, which is my CubeRace folder here, and I've got my CubeRace AEC ready to save into this folder. And that's all you need to do. I'm just going to save this project and we're going to go back into After Effects. Okay, the steps here are different to the Cineware plugin. We don't need to import our Cinema 4D project file. All we need to do is import our AEC file. So I'm going to come to my folder here, and I've got my PNG sequence here, and I've also got my AEC file. So I'm just going to click this and I'm going to import. And this automatically creates a folder with the name of the project, and in this folder we have a composition and we also have our PNG sequence. I just need to open up my composition and I have all the information that I need here. And again, I don't need my lights, so I'm just going to delete my lights here, and I have my nulls here. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to copy these text layers and I'm going to drop these into my composition here, and I'm going to assign these as I did before. So hold down Shift when I use the pick whip, and I'm going to make these visible, and there we have it. There's our callouts, and I'm just going to turn these around so that we can see them properly. Okay, so when I scrub through the timeline here, our callouts have been animated with the cubes. And this is exactly what we want. So this is a better option than using the Cineware plugin. So the AEC Importer plugin has a better utilization of the External Compositing Tag. So as you can see here, that with the blue we have our keyframes, and then with the red we also have our keyframes. So it's taking that information and turning it into keyframes without having to bake anything down, which is a better workflow than having to take the extra step of baking things down. So I'm going to show you another use where the AEC Importer plugin is much better than using Cineware. And I'm going to come back into Cinema 4D and I'm going to show you my next example. Okay, we're in Cinema 4D again, and I have my cubes in a clone object, and these are being animated with a plane effector and a formula field. It's fairly simple. And what I want to do is I want to render this out and bring it into After Effects and apply callouts to each of these cubes. Now we can't do this with the normal Cineware plugin, so we're going to have to use the AEC Importer plugin, and this demonstration is going to show you just how powerful this tool is. So you would think that what you need to do is to apply an external compositing tag to each of these cubes, but these cubes here are only instances of the original. If I just turn the cloner object off, you can see that these are the original and these are in different positions. So applying external compositing tags isn't going to work in this instance. So what we need to do is to apply it to the cloner object. So I'm just gonna right click, come down to the render tags and apply an external compositing tag. And all we need to do is when we render this out is to save our PNG sequence as normal and make sure that the compositing project file save checkbox is checked. And I'm going to leave these checked on here. So all we need to do is render the sequence out and your AEC file will be saved in the same folder as your PNG sequence. So I'm just going to save this and I'm going to render this out now. And I'm going to pop over to After Effects. Okay, so we're in After Effects. So what I want to do is bring in my PNG sequence. So I'm just going to select the AEC file and I'm going to import. And there we have our folder with our composition and our PNG sequence there. So I'm just going to open this up and we have all the relevant layers that we need. And again, I don't need my lights, so I'm just going to delete my lights here because I don't need to see them. This null here, I think, is the original null of the cloner object, so we don't actually need to use that. So I'm going to turn that off, but I've got my nulls for each of my objects just here, and that's pretty amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my text layers again, and I'm going to put these in order to make it easier. And I'm just going to duplicate these like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply these like I did in the previous examples by using the pick whip and holding down Shift and make these 3D layers like I did before. And there we have it. And there we have our call out. So what you need to do is just to align these how you want them. Okay, now when I scrub through the timeline here, you can see that everything's attached, everything's moving as expected. And that is how easy and more versatile it is to use the C4DImporter plugin opposed to the Cineware plugin. There are many applications you can use the external compositing tags for, and what I've shown you today is just the tip of the iceberg. I hope what I have shown you today has helped you, and if it has, then please like, subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. If you have any questions, then please make a comment below. I shall see you soon in the next video. Stay safe and thanks for stopping by.